Hello, and welcome to this short presentation on considerations for in-person music education and performing arts activities. I'm Mary Lurson, Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation, and together with my colleagues James and Lynn, we will share information about health and safety for music and performing arts for in-school learning.
Thanks, Mary. This is Lynn Tuttle, Director of Public Policy, Research and Professional Development at the National Association for Music Education. We will share research about aerosol distribution when students are engaged in music rehearsal and performing arts activities, and we will overview solutions for you to consider.
Thanks, Mary and Lynn. This is Dr. James Weaver, Director of Performing Arts and Sports at the National Federation of State High School Associations. Based on the research Lynn mentioned, we will share specific strategies and mitigate aerosol distribution and address concerns for health and well-being of students who engage in these important learning and enrichment activities.
So let's start with the research.
In the very early weeks of the health crisis, there was an urgent concern for music education in our nation's schools. Because the virus spreads via microscopic droplets in the air, we understood that this could curtail music learning and performing arts activities and all of the vital connections and enrichment that music learning offers.
This concern led to the formation of a coalition of music organizations that funded an unprecedented scientific research project using 2 U.S. research universities to directly address these 2 questions. What was happening with aerosol distribution when people sang, played an instrument, performed theater pieces, debated, or even spoke a poem loudly? And second, what tactics or practices mitigate aerosol distribution so music and performing arts learning opportunities could continue along with the vital benefits for all students?
Let's meet the researchers and find out what they learned.
We were grateful to engage 2 leading and recognized environmental engineering science researchers and their labs, Dr. Shelly Miller from the University of Colorado Boulder and Dr. Jelena Srebric from the University of Maryland. Along with their research teams, they set forth a rigorous and simultaneous research design to review precisely what was happening when aerosol distribution and airflow when various instruments were played, by both advanced performers and by beginners. As the researchers explored aerosol particle distribution from specific instruments and activities, they explored mitigations such as instrument and performer masking. And what you'll see on your screen here is the APS data that shows how much aerosol is being produced by each activity. If we look at the trumpet, you'll see the gray bars are unmitigated play, where the student is just playing as they normally would. You'll see in the orange bars that we have the mitigation strategies engaged, and we are able to reduce the amount of aerosol to near background level. When we look at the woodwinds on the next slide, you'll see that the oboes are a really big offender on this one with the big gray bars. And why that is because it has multiple wet vibrating surfaces that break up the respiratory droplets into finer aerosol particles that can linger in the air for longer. You'll see, though, when we apply the mitigation strategies we're presenting today, that the orange bars then give us a near background level of aerosol again. When we look at singing, you'll see that we have the same kind of trend, and when we use a standard-based masking system, we're able to reduce the amount of aerosols being released in the environment again to near background levels, reducing the risk for the infection by the performer and by others in the room. Researchers also addressed aerosol distribution both inside and outside to assess optimal conditions for mitigation. Among various considerations for aerosol distribution, 2 mitigation strategies stood out. The aerosol transmission was lowered significantly by masking the performer and the instrument, and that the room air exchange and filtration helped greatly. And that learning and performing outside should be considered. A detailed report about research methodology and results can be found at the links that you see on your screen. Lynn's now going to go through the mitigation strategies we have found through this research study.
Thanks, James. We have 5 principal recommendations that we have come to understand from this research, looking at music learning and performing arts activities in school and community sites. So first, masks. Masks for the students and performers, and masks for our instruments as well. For the instruments, for the bell covers, it's recommended that it have a multi-layer high denier bell cover with a MERV 13 filter insert. And for masks worn by the performers and the students, those masks should meet the ASTM F2100 standard or the GBT 32610 standard. Distance. We recommend that all performers stand at least 6 feet apart, following the CDC guidance for social distancing. This applies whether you're performing indoors, or rehearsing indoors, or out of doors, with an additional space needed for our trombone players, 9 by 6 for trombone players. Time. 30 minutes of rehearsal of actually producing music, singing, or performing your instruments. After that 30-minute mark has been reached, the room should be cleared and no rehearsal occur for at least the minimum of 1 air exchange before the next rehearsal period. The fourth recommendation, airflow. As James mentioned, being outdoors is best. If rehearsals or performances could happen outdoors, please consider that as an option. If you're indoors, you need to look at the HEPA filtration rate and the air exchange rates for the room. The better the filtration, the better the chance of mitigating aerosol spread. And the fifth principal recommendation ties back to the basic CDC guidance around hygiene, good hand washing, storage areas and places that are less congested so students don't congest or congregate in the storage areas. And then for spit valves, which release water from the instruments, recommendation of medicine grade pads or puppy pads to capture that, and that can be disposed.
We hope this information helps with your plans for in-school music learning and performing arts activities.
Our organizations with website information available here are standing by and ready to assist.
Finally, thank you for all you are doing to support every child as they return to school and activities that they love, activities which also help support their success in school, music and the arts.